Hi guys, today we're going to do the pant draft, and you can follow along with the steps with the handout that you'll find on the Blackboard section in course content under handouts for pant foundation. Now we're going to do it for a female, but I'm also going to make another version for a male. So you can do whichever one you want. Just when you hand it in, please let me know which one, and I will upload a separate measurement chart for a man if you would like to do a male trouser instead of a female trouser. But today we're going to do a female trouser. If you want to do male trouser, you can skip straight to the male trouser draft lesson. So let's open up Optitext, and the pants are very similar to the skirt, so much so that you can actually use your skirt sloper and just add the crotch extensions and taper the legs to create your skirt. But we're going to do it from scratch. So there are some differences in the draft, but again, you can use your skirt sloper if you want, and just add the crotch extensions, or follow along with me. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start out pretty much exactly like we did in the skirt, and we're going to make a box that pretty much encompasses both the front and the back. And let's pull up our measurement chart. There we are. And let's get our correct measurements. So we are going to need the full widths. This is going to be entirely the full width, but it's a good place to start. And just like the skirt, we're going to start with hip and with length. So our full hip is 36.5. So if we take half of that, we get 18.25. Now we do need to add some ease to that. So if you remember from the skirt, we added 1/4 inch of ease to each side. So total ease is going to be another 1/2 inch to this measurement. So we have 18.75 for our hip. Write that down so I don't forget. And for our full length, we're going to do waist to ankle again. So let's move down and look, waist to ankle, 37.5. So this is going to be our starting measurement. So we're going to go to piece, new piece, create rectangular piece. The length, of course, is 37.5, and the width is going to be our 18.75 inch. Okay, now let's rotate it upright. And zoom to fit. And we'll leave it as piece for now, because again, we're going to do the front and the back all in one. So what I want to do now is I want to start to make some lateral measurements, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in our hip line. So I'm going to go back to our hip depth on our measurement chart, just right here, and I'm going to look for the side hip depth for right now. Seven 7/8. Okie dokie. And to do this, I'm going to place a dot here and here, 7 7/8 down from the top. And over here as well. measurement, that'll create our hip line. Now I also want to do my crotch line, and the crotch depth is pretty much from the waist to the bottom of the crotch. And we're going to add, it says about a 1/4 or 3/4 inch ease to that. That is fairly small. I typically do an inch, but let's follow the directions. We have 9 3/4, so if we add 3/4 ease to that, we get 10 1/2. So I want to measure from here. So let's turn off the grading for now. Perhaps I should have kept it off. And this is my, ooh, I turned off too many grading points. I guess these were highlighted as well. I didn't see that. Yeah, whenever you see a measurement that doesn't seem quite right, double check to see whether your points are graded or not. And I'm going to do from here 10.5. And we've got the, well, we're going to do knee halfway there, so we do want to grade this. And the knee is going to be halfway here plus an inch, and we'll see how we do that. So this is grading. So I'm going to use my proportionate value and then add an inch toward the crotch. So we want to go up toward the crotch, and this is my next point. So I'm going to make this like so. Why did it go down instead of up? It should go up this way. Anyways, oh, I see. I'm sorry. Disregard all that. And we'll do the same thing over here. Start right in the middle and then add an inch, or take away an inch so it gets closer to our crotch level, which is our previous at this time. And now we're going to go ahead and draft a line through all these points that we just made. Here we go. Right click, finish drafting. Okay, so now that we have all of our horizontal lines, I just want to go over them. Again, this is the waist up here, the hip is right here, this is the crotch line, this will be for the knees, and this is the ankles. So we're doing, again, full length pant. Now what we want to do is we want to separate, pretty much indicate where the side seam is going to be. But remember, it's not going to be exactly in the middle because we have to make the back a little bit bigger than the front. The back is going to be here on the left, and the front is going to be here on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back to my measurement chart and look for the front and back hip arc. So my back hip arc is 8 7/8. Now remember, we added a 1/4 inch ease to each side, so we're going to add a 1/4 inch ease to our back measurement, 9 3/8. The front is 8 7/8 here. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. Just remember that the front is going to be here on the right and the left is going to be the back. So let's add a 1/4 inch to our back. That'll give us 9 5/8. So I'm going to place a point 9 5/8 from this point, which of course is our previous point. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom, so we get a nice line. Of course, now it's our next point. And we'll make a line to connect them. And this will represent the beginning of our side seam, because our side seam is going to take a lot of finishing from here, but just sort of the beginning of it. So back, front, side seam over here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start to build out what's called our crotch extensions. So this line, if we take it all the way down, is our center back. But again, with pants, the center back goes down to about the end of the butt, and then it curves out to sort of go in between the legs. Same on the front. It goes down our center front until about the crotch level, and then we curve it out to create this little piece that goes in between our legs. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to figure out what our crotch extensions are. And our crotch extensions are pretty much based on our hip. So in the back crotch extension goes out half of the hip here. So if you forgot that measurement we just took, let's go ahead and measure it again. It's 9 5/8 if you don't remember. But we're going to take 1/2 of that. So let's figure out what that is. .815, and I'll round that up to 4.82 because we only are working with 2 decimal places. So what I want to do is I want to take my draft tool and start here at the edge of the crotch line, click, and then make this extension that is that measurement we just calculated. Now remember, it's going left, so it is going to be a negative value. And I don't want it to go up or down. And right-click, Finish Drafting. Okay? Now I'm also going to build one out of the front. The front is a little bit smaller. The front, instead of being 1/2 of the respective waistline, hip line, is going to be 1/4. So let's measure what it was in the front. And we're getting about 9 1/8. So let's go ahead and divide it by 4. And this will be our front crotch extension. I'm just going to round that to 2.28. And no variation in the Y. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to place a few more points, and all of these points are going to help us create the curve of our crotch extension. And I want to place a point that is midway between my crotch depth and my waistline here. So in order to do that, let's make sure that these guys are turned off. Looks like they are indeed. Okay, good. They're not grading. So I can make a measurement very easily from this guy here, who is right in the middle here. So let's grab our point and use our proportionate value option. And we'll do it on the other side as well. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start to sort of plan out where the darts are and add in a few other points. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to zoom in on our waist because we're going to be working sort of in here for right now. We'll figure out the rest of the legs later. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take in a point here about 3/4 of an inch. And this is going to help shape the back of our center back line. Okay, so we'll put one there. Then what I want to do is I'm going to measure out the full waist plus 2¼ inches for a dart intake and ease, of course. So we're going to get a 1/4 inch ease on the waist and 2 inches for dart intake. Okay, so just like the skirt. So let's find out what our waist measurement is. Oh, it's right here. View. So back waist arc, let's look it up, is 6 3/8, so plus that 1/4 inch, we're going to get 6 5/8. 6 5/8 plus another 2 inches for the dart intake will give us 8 5/8. And there we are. Pretty close, but that's okay. No worries. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. The waist measurement plus only about 1/4 of an inch for ease and also for darts. So let's find our front waist arc. Front, 6 7/8 plus 1/4 is 7 1/8 plus 1 inch for dart intakes gives us 8 1/8 inches. Okay, now that we have the waist plotted out, let's go ahead and put in the dart measurements for now. So they're all going to be measured from here because this is going to be our new sort of end of the waist. So we're going to measure in 3 inches. 3 inches is going to be our dart placement. We're not using the 3 1/8. We're just going to use a standard 3 inches. Each dart is going to be 1 inch wide. With 1 1/4 inch in between them. Now, as you can probably remember, this is very close to what we did on the skirt, hence why I said you can kind of use the skirt if you wanted to save a little work, by using the skirt and then adding the crotch extensions. Okay, let's do the front as well. The front is going to have 3 inches to the first dart placement, and these guys are only going to be 1/2 inch dart intake. It's a little bit different on the skirt. They're going to have the same 1 1/4 in between them as we do have on the back. And there we are. Now we're not going to put the darts in quite yet because we're going to do a little bit more manipulation of the waistline before we get there. But now what we're going to do is sort of put in the curve of the crotch. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the points that we have created to create a nice curve and then build it out. So I'm going to do the front first because the front is a little bit easier. What I want to do to help me create a guideline, well, I'm going to do one more point. I'm going to bring it out from this point, and this is going to help me make the curve, because the curve's going to come, start to curve out here, and then we curve, and then we hit right here. But to help me make it, I'm going to make a little bit of a line right here, and this line is going to bisect this 90-degree angle, so it'll be a 45-degree angle. We'll see what Optitext wants it to be. And it's going to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to click here, and then bring it out, hold down the Alt key, and then click. So here, it'll be easy, a nice 45-degree angle, and I want this to be a total of 1.5 inches. Wow, I did it quite well. Okay? Then we're going to right-click Finish Drafting. Now, with that in place, I can finish my curve. I'm going to start here at this midpoint, click, come down here, hold the Shift key so this next point will be curved, click through the point I just made, and then finish at the end of my front crotch extension. Okay? Then I'm going to right-click, Finish Drafting. Okay, and we'll build that out in a minute. Let's just go ahead and do the same thing over here. So I want to build out a line just as I did before. And this one is going to be 2 inches because this is going to be a slightly wider curve. Okay? Now, what Optitext wants me to do here, because I'm going from the, so this was 45, this is 90, I'm going to add 45 degrees to 90 to get this, so that'll be 135. Pretty close. And we'll make sure that that is a nice 2 inches. Now you can see that if it's a correct 45-degree angle, you may have noticed this on the previous one, the X and Y difference will remain the same. So you can always double check to see if you have the right angle that you want, a nice 45-degree angle, by checking that out. Okay? Right-click Finish Drafting. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bit of a line right up here that goes up about 1/4 of an inch. Okay? So let's click here and then bring it up 1/4 of an inch. So very small. This should be a nice 90. I don't know why it's not. And then right-click Finish Drafting. Now we're going to go all the way from this top point, intersect here, come through here, and then end down here to make this curve. And hopefully, because this is a little bit of a straight point, it won't complain too much. Let's see what happens. Hold Shift. Okay, we get this weird piece. Let's see, can I use it? Probably not. So don't do that. We're going to do something else. So what I want to do to sort of alleviate this and solve our problems is I'm going to cut. Okay? I'm going to, oops, sorry, wrong tool. Even I make mistakes. We're going to use the cut piece tool, and I'm going to cut this directly off. Now let's build out, so we're going to have a little bit of a difference building out here. We're going to have 2 things to build instead of just one. But let's start with our curve. Right-click Finish Drafting. And then I'm going to blend this in, and I'm going to blend it in, you know, maybe to this point. That seems just fine. Oop, you know what I want to do is start from the piece so Optitext stops yelling at me. Okay, now let's build out these pieces with our build piece tool so we can join them on there. Use my join piece tool to join it back on. Come over here, do the same thing. Join piece tool. Snap it back on there. Okay, and we gotta do this little guy too. Zoom in real close if he's giving you trouble. And if you need to clean up anywhere, clean it up. Looks like maybe around here I got a little bit of a mess. So let's clean it. There we go, nice and clean. Now let's take a look. So we have our crotch extensions built out. We have our darts in place. And we have the waistline pretty much smooth in there. And what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to drop a 1/4 inch off the center front here. So let's zoom in just to finish that up. And I'm going to grab my cut piece tool because I'm going to just cut it right away. Alt. Ooh, very good. And let's cut it. We'll blend it in maybe about right here. Okay, now before I get rid of anything, I want to replace where my darts was. So I'm just going to drag out these guidelines before I do anything. And get rid of this piece. Make sure this is a non-grading point because I don't want it to really make any difference. And let's replace my points for my dart. And we will make those grading points. Oop. There we go. Okay. Almost done. Now we can put in our darts. And our darts are going to be pretty similar lengths to what they were in the skirt. So let's zoom out a little bit. And, well, maybe not that much. Grab our dart tool. And 1, 2, click for depth. And our darts for the back are going to be 4.5 inches. And our darts for the front are only going to be about 3, so a little bit smaller on the pants. And one more. Okay, so we've got darts, we've got our waistline all set up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut out the hip curve just like we did before. Now as you can see on the back, we're not going to have a lot of distance and we're not going to have quite as big of a hip curve as we do on the skirt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my cut piece tool, and what I want to do is I don't want to go all the way down to the hip. I want to keep it about midpoint. So we can go ahead and add a point. We know this was about 8, let's say about 8 inches. Let's say it's going to be 4 inches from the top. and that'll just serve as a little marker for us. I'm just going to go ahead and cut right in there. I'm going to do maybe at least one click in between so it's curved. And get that out. Now I can get rid of this little guy. Now this looks very flat, so I might go back with my move point tool and just sort of push it out a little bit so I get a little curve, and that's pretty full, so I might just put that in a little bit so you can do a little bit of, you know, manipulation afterwards just to get it a nice curve. Okay. Pretty good. Again, almost done. Let's just finish up with the legs. So I'm going to zoom out. Now what I want to do is I want to find the midpoint between for my leg. So this would be like sort of if there was a crease on it or something else. So what I want to do is I want to find the midpoint of this line here, our total crotch extension line. So let's zoom in on it a little bit closer so I have a bit easier time. And I want to do a couple things. First, what I want to do is make sure that this is not a grading point, because I don't want it to mess up my measurement. And I do want a point here. So let's add one. And that will be a grading point. Now I'm going to add a point right here. And I want it to be midway. So let's see where that takes me. And I'm going to double check this measurement just to make sure, because this looks like it's midway here, but it's not including this, which I do want it to do. So I might have to do this mathematically. Yep, because that's midway here. I don't want midway here. I want midway the whole way. So let's measure the whole thing. 14 and 4, 5, so let's divide that by 2. Okay. Now to that, we are going to add just a 1/4 of an inch. So we can round that up to 7.5. And that will be from here, which I'm actually not quite sure which is my previous or next. I think it's my next. I guess not. Okay, that looks good. Now let's do it for the other side. And again, remember this is going to be smaller because the front is smaller and our crotch extension is smaller. So 11.5, let's just say, or I guess we'll be more precise. And we're going to add about a 1/4 inch to that. So it will be 5.95. Okay. And maybe it's my next. Yeah, that looks correct. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out again, now that we have our little points, and I'm going to clear the guidelines that we have because I'm going to use new ones. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and now drag out a guideline and place it right on the point that I just made. well, 2 points that I just made. Oops. Okay. Snap. Come on, snap. No, not the other one. Trying to snap to the ones on top. Alright, well, we're going to have to zoom in and make sure it's going where it wants to go. There. Now I can start to flesh out the rest of the piece. So what I'm going to do is I am going to zoom in on the bottom. And I'm going to place a point where the guideline is intersecting. I do want these to both be grading. So let me fix that. And what I want to do is on the back here, I'm going to measure out 4.5 inches on both sides. On the front, I'm going to measure out 4 inches on both sides. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's start with the inside part. And this, of course, will be my next. Okay. And let's do one over here. And this is, of course, my previous. Okay, now what we have is we have the ability to cut out our side seam, which we can go ahead and do. So what I want to do is basically from my hip line down, cut away this area. So I'm going to just go straight to it because it's not a very complicated cut, but I'm going to start here. Okay, because we've got to cut the whole thing in two. I'm going to go down to my hip line, cut, and then go all the way down here and click. Okay, and let's just keep it at nothing for now. Now I'm going to do the same thing, and I can sort of move this out. So I can see where I need to cut better. So I'm starting at the hip line here and cut down to here. Okay, and we can get rid of that middle piece. And now let's flesh out the rest of the leg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it all in one go. I'm going to grab my draft tool, and I'm going to start at that midpoint there that we created. Now remember, I need 4.5 inches out this way. So from last point, and we are moving left, so it does need to be a negative value. And no change X or Y. I'm sorry, no change in Y, obviously change in X. And then from there, I'm going to go straight up to my crotch extension right here. And then right click, finish drafting. Okay, let's do the same thing here. Remember, we need to build this out 4 inches. And bring it up to our crotch extension there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to build those pieces in. Join them back up. And same thing over here. Join it back up. Okay, now we have to do one last thing. We need to square out the crotches, give it a little bit more ease and a little bit of neatness with our squaring. So I'm going to zoom in here, And we basically just want to bring it out a ½ inch and then blend it back down in. So let me zoom out just a little bit so we have enough room to blend it. And I'm going to grab my draft tool and click on my crotch extension, and again go out about a ½ inch. Since we're moving left, it'll be negative. Okay, and then I'm just going to blend it in, coming down maybe right here. Right click, finish drafting, and then I'm just going to build that piece out too a little bit. Don't forget to join it. Okay, and we'll go ahead and do the other side. ½ inch over here as well. Blend it back in. And don't forget to join it. Now that pretty much takes care of our drafting. So let's zoom out. Let's just put in our finishing details. Obviously, correct the grains and such. And you need to know what's our front and our back as well. So what I'm going to do is first correct my grain lines. Now with all these joinings, our grain lines might be, you know, who knows where. So let's go ahead and give it a new baseline. Okay, so it popped up right there in the middle, which is nice. Now let's set it. And of course, we no longer have really anything straight enough to set it on the front, on the back. So I'm going to use this guideline, which is nice and straight, to do it. And let's call it our back pant sloper. And give it just the information it needs, obviously. Pant sloper size 8. Okie dokie. And let's do the same thing for our front. Make sure we have a working baseline. And then let's set it along a nice straight line. This I can actually use the center front, so we still have a straight bit of the center front here, so I could have used that. And it needs a little info as well. And there we are. That completes the pant sloper. Now, if some of these lines are a little annoying, you can, you know, this little guy in here, you can delete this little, you know, some of these lines you can go ahead and delete, or not. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really hurt anything. Just might want it a little bit cleaner. So there we go. There's our pant sloper. And of course, you can do this. Remember, this is for females, or you can do the male ones, or you can do both for extra credit. I'll see you back if you are interested in the male trousers as well. But this concludes the female trousers. Just remember to save. And you'll do it your name sloper. And I'll see you next time.